Good evening, folks. We are resilient. We are war. I'm here with Charlie Barnting of Awesome Mike Radio, and I am Mike Gary of Hellfish Haven. We're here to check in with you guys this week and see what's going on.
How's it going?
I can say it's been an up and down week. The allergies are kicking the little one's butt. So we made a double up on giving her like a chewable in the morning and then like some liquid allergy med that kids just don't like the taste of anything. So it's like here, have a Capri Sun right afterwards to get it down.
All right.
And then you can tell first thing in the morning because she starts doing like the rubbing of the eyes. And it's like, oh, I got to figure out like how to read like the day, like like they say like how much like pollen's gonna be out there and things like that. Like I haven't figured out like what like affects her the worst yet. So I gotta learn that.
It's always something, man.
Besides that, I mean, there's some good things happening in the world. Jose's here. He's a good thing. Come here, buddy. Come on, say hi. Come on. Was I touch? Jose's here to say hi. He's always happy to be here. And then we're doing some crafting. The other night I was in a stream and we got at the end of streams you can choose to like rate other streams that are going on.
Yeah.
And so we got sent into this stream with these ladies that craft at night. And they do like a 6-7 hour stream of just they'll spin the wheel and craft different things, and like it was just we hung out there and keep going back and checking in with them. And so Emily and I did this for my mom, her nanny, that we're gonna give to her on Mother's Day.
Nice.
And nanny was like, I don't want anything. Like, you gotta get something, gotta do something for the moms out there, Even the hardest of thugs, Tupac, had his Dear Mama song. And so just, if you get the chance, go out there, say thanks, Mom, for putting up with, all of our nonsense, all the gray hairs that we've gotten over the years. And, if this is between you and your mom or you and your kid, try to make that up while you still can.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. For sure. They're not going to be here forever.
And that, I learned that through, Jacqueline, because, just a few days before Emily was born, Jackie's mom had passed away. So, we, Jackie, still struggles with that, to this day, holidays like this come up, anniversary of the passing, mom's birthday, just her not being able to have interacted physically, with Emily, is tough on Jackie. And, the way I look at it is, her mom, helped throw the baby shower, knew that, Emily was coming into the world, knew that, Jacqueline was happy about that, knew that, we're going to provide a good, home for her, and, that, she was able to, go on to the next adventure knowing that, her daughter was in good hands and she was about to be the mother that she always wanted to
be. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, certain.
It's definitely, crazy how things happen. And the other thing that I had going on is I put a FOIA request in to the Department of War and the White House staff back in January. And so FOIAs are supposed to be answered in 20 days. In 72 hours, you're supposed to get a initial response saying this is how it's going to go, and this is the avenue of approach they're going to take. And then after that, they're supposed to, have everything completed within 20 days. they sent me a letter saying, we're backed up. It's going to take a little bit. We're going to reach out to some people. And then I said, hey guys, what's going on with it? I reached back out and said, hey, it's April. It's been 3 months. I didn't get any response. So I did, what, every civilian on a base does. And I filled out a little ICE card, that, customer service thing. So your individual customer experience. So I filled that out and I wrote down what's happening. And since they read the ICE note, less than 24 hours later, I got a phone call from the top person that I've been CCing in the emails that hasn't responded. And he's been working with the White House staff and the federal government for 23 years after he did his 20 years in the military.
Wow.
He has 43 years of service to the country.
Hmm.
And he was telling me, FOIA requests always get backed up. There's so many that come in, and there's so much you have to do. But he said right now, a lot of the positions have been vacated. People have retired. People have quit. People have, been, let go. Staff's been shrunk. So they said they are over 4,500 FOIA requests behind.
Wow.
So I'm not, thinking that I think I get mine anytime soon. But what I requested was who is behind the Department of War rapid response on Twitter. So
Oh, and why'd you do
that? The way they engage and the way that they talk to people. I'll see if I can pull up a screen grab so I can show it, because talking about it is one thing, but being able to show it is another. So the rapid response, the rapid DOW, I believe it is very divisive in nature. It's very meme and sass oriented. It's not what the military is supposed to convey. It's not what the professionalism that I was taught in my time in the service. So I want to know if this is a civilian contractor. Is this E4 or below? Just having fun. Getting blast off on the internet, or is this some higher ranking officer being a mega troll? Because there's all that going on right now. Before if somebody mouthed off on the internet, they would have their chain of command would have taken them and see you later. They would have been NJP'd and we wouldn't have heard of them again. But now it seems like there's more of a tolerance for the engagement, because it gets eyes on the services. It gets eyes on the branches.
Right.
And it's just you see it a lot too with the veterans that talk about their disability ratings. That's your own business. I don't know why people go online and want to share that with the world. So I'm trying to find the
I've seen those channels that do, and then I've been told by several people that you shouldn't be talking about that in a recorded form at all, preferably to nobody.
All right. I'm going to do a quick screen share here so we can pull up the. Don't show it again. So I can show you guys the. So here it is here. So they're sharing, Trump's messages here.
Mm-hmm.
The new War Department had a schedule, talking about stealth. I feel like, sharing, these memes and these ridiculous things that are going on here, it's like a photo op. It's not actual material going on this, And then, let's see, back in January when I first got. And instead of, it just seems like it's not, like this right here, where I am not ashamed of my faith in Jesus Christ. If you want to shame me for it, go ahead. It's like, the separation of, church and state, there's these things are, being shared, we're rebuilding, a military that the American people can be proud of. Like, what has happened to the military that made us not proud of it? When have we not been proud of the men and women in uniform? Like,
Yeah.
And then so it's just
Pretty
like
odd for a super
there's so
high
many of these.
official Twitter account.
And like, and let me see if I can, and like you look at the media that they share, like more bombs here, like this right here.
Cool.
Consider it done. And like, like celebrating like what's going on. Like the other thing too is like they were talking about the guys in Kuwait that were hit.
Yeah.
All right, so let me close that down. So they were talking about the guys in Kuwait that were hit the other day, and it just really, it showed me that they weren't prepared for it because where they were when I was in Kuwait in 2012, I was on a small base, Camp Patriot. It was part of Kuwait Naval Base, and there was a big we had a big pier that went out, and like we had Navy boats, Army boats, Coast Guard. It was a real joint base operation. And then further up the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, there was another base, called S-Pod, and that's the base that got hit. And they talk about there not being anything to fortify it to be able to protect it from the drone strikes that hit it, and it's 100% true. Because there isn't anything, it was just a basic, a trailer out there, a little smoke shack, a little, guard tower, a little, entry control point. Like there was nothing out there that was a fortified position to, there's no bunker, there's no safe area for these guys to go. And that's why, 6 soldiers lost their lives. That's why, multiple soldiers were wounded and it was a mass caliban. And then even for that, you have to have the soldiers come from another base that has all the resources to go out there and provide the emergency services and provide that that quick reaction force to get those guys out of there and to care. And that's a 15-20 minute drive. So it's like it really wasn't planned out well to say the Iranian drones have a capability to strike within 100 miles, and we didn't protect that area within 100 miles. So it's knowing what that actual location was, and they moved guys in some bases. They moved guys out of some places, put them into hotels instead of being at their their location. And they did push soldiers to different bases, but like when you keep guys out out on the the water, you literally you could look across the water at night, you could see Iran. You would see their drones flying, and you would see their guard towers watching us as we watch them. Like it's literally every night what we could see. If you went down to the pier and you were jogging, you would look across the the waters, and you would see the Iranians on the other side. So it's just how they thought not to fortify the position for these guys. And like the other thing too is like those guys that are at that base, the chemicals that they're inhaling, like it's awful for them too. Like that was another thing that was bad about that area. It was like it's right here. You're next to like an oil field. You're next to like this place where all these chemicals are being put into the air, and like it's like not only are these guys getting the negative health effects of being stationed here, but now citizens have been killed. So it was just like it blew my mind. Like it was always the joke spot. Oh, he went to Kuwait. That's not a real deployment. It was always a joke. Now all of a sudden shit got real, and so it's like it just drives me nuts that they can do more.
So what did they say when they got back to you?
They said to me that they're still going to be reaching out. They said that because this administration has fired so many people, they don't have the staffing to be able to give me the answer right away. That's still going to take some time because they can't get the answer right away. So they're still doing some investigation into it. They said the initial people that were logging into it didn't, have a login. They were using another, person's login information to get into the account and to be able to put stuff out. So the first person they thought it wasn't them. It was an account being shared by two other people. And then when they were looking for those people were already gone. So that's like. So now, it's kind of being run by multiple, users. I can't get an answer on who that department is in charge of it. This, it seems like it's, just a rogue, person or squad, running this, this official government, source of information, this official, media outreach, and the amount of followers they have too is like, it's in the 557,000 followers.
Right, a lot.
So it's like every time they get a message out there, they're really getting out there. And I'm sure that there's a deal with Twitter and the people that would be that it pushes it on the algorithm more than it does our stream or things that that are being put out that aren't to do with the government.
Right.
So, but they did, the guy said he was going to try to do his best to give me an answer in 2 weeks. So, I'm not going to hold my breath on that, but I will, try to give him a call back. I told him too, after, filling out the ICE information, I said, hey, if you can, send me an email and, go over what we just talked about on the phone in an email, I can reply back, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And, and I can put a good word in, because I'm not the type of person that's just going to, put a complaint in and end of story. If you remedy the situation, if you show me good faith that you're trying to answer my question, that you're trying to do the job, I have no problem commending you for it and passing it up, so that way you also get the praise, not just the punishment of the reporting.
Right.
But it's just wild that that you have to push certain buttons for things to happen. Like same thing, like I went up to the Apple store in Dedham.
Oh, yeah.
I bought a pair of headphones, and the like on the ear, it was causing it to discolor where I would like sweat on the the ear pad thing.
Yeah.
Like it was the over the ear ones. And then I got like a little rash because it was like a discoloration from like the color of the headphones, because Emily told me I had to buy a pair of pink ones. So I had a pair of pink headphones, and then like all of a sudden Jackie was like, hey, did Emily like color on those, because they look yellow, and like there's a yellow spot on it, and it was from the sweat and the coloring of the headphones. And then it was like a little rash on the back of my ear. And so I turned into the store. It took them a few weeks to be able to send it up to their safety people. The safety people kicked it back and said there's nothing wrong with it, just give it back to them. And so I called the the phone number for sport, and I said, this is what's going on, under Massachusetts law, for consumer protections. under Warranty Act, I'd like to pursue litigation because I don't think that I'm being treated properly, and I think that you guys are committing an unsafe act by returning that to me, and what's going to happen. So as soon as I do that, one of the people, it was a level 4 employee that I got to, said I'll take the case back on, and she's going to call me on Saturday to work on it again. And it's wild that if somebody tells you something is causing them physical harm, even something as simple as a rash, I'm not going to tell that person to go put it back on. I'm going to do it again to swap it out. Like I even told them if we just do a dark color, I had a previous pair of them that was a dark color, and that was I had for 2 years, no problem. And they're like, oh, we can't do that. Like they won't let us. That's one thing that I always heard in the military from people too. They won't let us. They won't do this. They want you to do this. They monsters out there. If you can't take responsibility to say, I want you to do this. We need you to do this. The first sergeant needs this done. The commander needs this done. Me as your squad leader, I need you to do this. There needs to be accountability for why you're asking soldiers to do things. Why you're taking their time away from them. Like if you're gonna need them for a task, you should be able to say it's for me to do this. It's for the company to do this, not because they need it done. You can't scapegoat that. Like,
Well, it's the little things in life, right? And it's just, people showing that they care, people showing that, hey, they understand where you're coming from does a whole lot more than just being ignored. And so, that's a lot of it sometimes. And that's where, people, veterans, civilians get, kind of been out of shape or frustrated or jaded because they just want a little respect, a little decency. You're not asking for a handout. You just want to be treated right.
I think that's the hardest part is that's what we're looking for is it's just something simple like that is we just want and this is the other thing that's happening that's not happening is they're not passing the Major Richard Starr Act. It's being pushed up again. It's it's signed by folks in the House. It's got to go back up before a committee, and it doesn't make sense why we just can't get this passed. And the more time that goes by, the more I keep seeing these articles that are coming out saying the VA disability system is fraud. Oh, this is what's going on here, and I can't believe what I'm seeing and what people are writing these stories and I saw somebody write that Agent Orange doesn't cause type 2 diabetes. Why are we giving these Vietnam vets disability for their diabetes? And Agent Orange dissipates when it gets in the air. How many people were really affected by it? It's like, are we picking this fight? Has enough time passed and people don't realize what happened to these guys? And it blows my mind. We have these devices in our pockets and have everything that you could ever want to learn at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And we just keep getting dumber. We've gotten so lazy that we had to go look it up in encyclopedia. You had to go and get the resources that weren't Wikipedia. You couldn't use that as a resource. You had to find the studies. You had to find the case studies. You had to find the peer reviewed articles. You had to find the scientific methods that were the hypothesis had been proven. It had been tested. The theory was out there, and it's just crazy that now these guys are just throwing off the hip at these articles saying this theft and this fraud, and one of these days people are gonna come up to you and say prove your disability, and it's like the fuck you are. Who's gonna walk up to somebody and say prove your disability? What is why are you gonna do that to somebody? You know, you don't walk up to somebody, and say, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Like, you want me walking up to you and saying, are you STD free? Like, your health is your health. It's not that person's damn business.
Well, some people make it their business. Some people just can't leave well enough alone. Some people make assumptions, man, and it really sucks. You don't look like you're hurt. Really? You know that for sure? You got a crystal ball or something, or X-ray glasses. And what makes you think that? Well, you're walking around fine. I'm like, really? You don't watch me go up and down stairs. It would change your mind.
Mm-hmm. And like to be calling people out on it, it's just uncanny. Like, people don't see, like, the guy that has night terrors. They're not in bed with him as he breaks out in a cold sweat. Wakes up gasping for breath. Like, people like, why is sleep apnea a rated disability? And it's like, because it's secondary to the PTSD. It's secondary to other situations that are causing sleep issues. And it's like, and even that things are being changed. People always bring up tinnitus. And it's like, tinnitus is a 10% rated compensation. And it's like, yeah, the ringing in your ears sucks. Like, I wish I could give that back and not have the like, yee there all the time.
Right,
Like,
right.
if I could trade that in, I thought take that $180 a month and give me my my good hearing back. And it's just
Yeah,
and even
yeah. You're just doing it for the VA money. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I tell you what, I'd give back every dollar the VA ever gave me if I could just walk normally again.
it just it blows my mind that this is what the people out there talking about and saying, and like, and again we're coming up on Memorial Day. This is at the time of the year that we're supposed to honor our fallen brothers and sisters, and folks are are really out there bashing veterans on their disability and like what we claim. Like,
No, I get it, and it's just something that I think requires eternal vigilance. And hey, you're not gonna talk down to me like that. You know, I didn't ask for any of this.
I mean, like I said, like, it's just wild. Like, I'm looking at like the things that people that write and stuff like this, and like hold on, I want to see if I can get back to the next of it. This is almost universal for good or ill for ex-military combat guys. Half of my buddies are disabled. One of those guys just broke 3 in a marathon. It is what it is. And because somebody was complaining about Graham Plattner is a man so mentally damaged he's receiving $5,000 a month tax free from the government in disability pay. Yet he wants to be a senator. Either is incapable of being a senator or has been arranging his finances to claim benefits which he does not deserve. And again, it's a misrepresentation of what VA compensation is. It's not. It's not Social Security disability where it's like you're getting this check because you can't work. This is, we've taken from you. We have cost you the ability to earn over your lifetime because of these, these injuries, these ailments. You are not able to be 100% you. You are not able to, sleep through a night. You're not able to, make it, whatever the criteria that you met for your particular rating. You've met that. You've gone through the CNP, appointments. You've gone to your primary care team. You've gone to the specialist. You've gone, you've submitted your nexus letters. You submitted your buddy letters. You've shown the connection to the activating event, the result from it, and how it's affecting you today. And, you've connected all those dots. It's not like people are just going in and saying, I need some money, hook me up, VA. And, it's not an ATM, people aren't just getting it, handed out to them, You have to relive some of the hardest days of your life again in front of a total stranger to be able to explain to them how your, mental health is, affecting you. And like, for me, like, I got really fucked up the day that, like, I went in for my CMP exam because they had a controlled detonation across the street.
Wow.
No warning, nothing. It was just all of a sudden, boom. And I was like, I looked at the guy and I'm just like, I'm not gonna be able to answer any questions that you have for me. Like, I'm toast. I'm like, can't come back from that. Like, I watered up.
You relive it all over there again. Plus, you realize you're going to talk to a complete stranger, and they're going to decide if you're hurt enough, based on what they see and how they write it up. It's crazy.
Yep. And, and it's just, it's wild to see like the comments on it, and like the biggest thing I've seen, like the biggest like person that's pushing against us is like, have you ever seen this dude Caleb Hammer? He does like a finance show.
Yes.
And like
wears glasses.
People that go on his
wears glasses, kind of like, oh yeah, I financed, this new Dodge, Challenger for, $1,000 for, 7 years. Was that a good decision?
Yep. It's like he's talking on, privates every time he, gets somebody in the military on there. And like every time you get somebody in the military on there, they've already got, a VA rating, and like they can't articulate it to him why they have it, or like, how the process they went through to get it. Like, and sometimes I just think like, are these actors going in there? Like, are these actual people? Like, or is this, they're doing this for the, to liven up the script, to jazz up the show for views and things like that. Like, I don't know what to trust anymore. Like, there's so much fake out there, so much, AI nonsense and, slop that like it's really tough to know, what's real and what's not. But, things like that going on. The Washington Post articles that came out, a little while back, that went after us, for the rampant fraud that's going on in the VA compensation, claims. And it's like, no, if there is fraud, if there is waste and there is abuse, find it, report it, and get that person off it, because they're making a bad name for the rest of us. You brought up to me on a show, a year or two ago about that guy down in Providence that was taking money from veterans. They were basically saying, hey, I got to pay my bills this month. He's like, I don't care, pay me, or you're not going to get your VA claim pushed through. It's like, it's scumbags like that make a bad thing for the rest of us. And like, I know there are organizations out there that say, oh, let's get you the 100%, but it's like, get you the rating that you deserve, that that you put up with, and then people understand that 40 plus 60 doesn't equal 100 to the VA.
Nope.
So if you've got a disability rating for 60%, that takes away 60 from the 100. Then your next rating is 40%. That's not 40% out of 100. That's 40% out of that 40% that's left. So you take away from that, that 80 you got left. So you take 40% out of that, and then you've got the 60% of 40 left. You've got 25 left, and then you keep hitting it. Of that 25, you got a 20, you got a 10, you got a 10, you got a 0, another 10. All of those may add up to like 240% if you add it up conventionally, but because of the VA math, you're still only at 60 or 70%, because it goes up and then it rounds down, goes up and then rounds down, goes up and rounds down. So it's like, and folks don't see that, and it's like with we're escalating into more people seeing action, more acts of war, more aggression, and like, you don't think that the guys that are going through this might have something happen to them those 6 guys that were, killed, their buddies that, watched them die in front of them, you don't think those guys are going to have, everlasting, scars and, mental health conditions because of this? Like, you understand that, doing one creates the others. And like, when I signed up, I was told if Uncle Sam fucks me up, they're going to take care of me and, they'll take care of my family if I'm to die. And, that's, that's good enough for a lot of people. And that's why they signed the dotted line, just for that alone. And, we can't break that promise to our vets. Like, no matter, where you stand, politically, where you stand, almost on, issues, like, wherever you are, you can't turn on the people that fight the fight. You can hate the people that send them. You can hate the people that, that protest them. You can hate everything else, but you can't hate the guy in uniform because he's doing his job and he will do it and he will stand up for, if it's an unlawful order, I've seen guys say, no, that's fucked up, But again, it comes back to, where we're hyping things up, where we're in these, these tiny spaces, within the giant internet. And all we've done is, become, more, my point is right because 15 people around me that all think the same thing as me tell me it's right. So it's like, we've got, these little mini cheerleaders, making us think that our view is the only view that's correct. And it's just really, weird to see this. And like, another, thing that I've seen is, this guy, there's like a major that works with Hegseth, and he's on, Twitter, always posting, things against like, against diversity in the military, against, females in, combat roles. But like, if you go and you look him up, a few years ago, he was, at, these training centers, helping, a female ROTC student, be able to get trained up to go through infantry school as they opened it up to females. He was, pushing it, but like, as like he moved up the rank and as he, as the, the divide, grew, people are pushing these messages. And like I said, nothing's happening to them online. Like, it's wild to see the military becoming, politicized.
Well, I've got to get ready for Oscar Mike Radio, man. This month's going by fast. 8 more till number 500. We're getting pretty excited. So it's coming. It's here.
What number are you at right now?
491. 491 releases tonight. Wow. So it's something else.
Who's the guest tonight?
Anna Redman, the CEO and founder of Brav. And there are a couple other things, but the one thing they have is they have a way for veterans to upload their challenge coins virtually into their system and then create their own challenge coins, share them, talk about them. It's really a cool platform. I've got almost all my coins there, and I like these new and different things that some people are doing in the veteran space. So it was a good show.
And then best way to be able to find your show, it's go on OscarMikeRadio.com.
OscarMikeRadio.com, and we'll take you from there.
All right, I'm going to throw it up on the screen, throw in the comments real quick before we have you go here.
All right.
Just if you guys want to, check out Travis, here's where to do it. OscarMikeRadio.com. And thank you for joining me this week. If anybody,
resilient.
We're W.A.R. Come and join us on the show. And thanks for checking in. We'll see you guys next week.